Welcome back. Today I will once again be taking on a brand new subject, great album opening tracks, and this is one that has ample fodder for many, many more videos. Oh my gosh, when I started to think about this, it was overwhelming. I'm going to take on 3 today. I will definitely be doing more in the future. And honestly, I'm not saying that the 3 I'm covering today are the 3 best of all time by any means, nothing like that. These are 3 songs and artists that just happened to tickle my fancy today for whatever reason. And by the way, 2 of the 3 are artists that I have not yet covered on my channel. So hopefully they'll be artists that some of you enjoy as well. So it seems like the rate of new subscribers is ticking up a little bit again over the last couple of videos. Would love to keep that going. If you've been watching, please take a moment to just hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, leave a comment, and buy me a coffee, and PayPal links are available in the description of the video if you'd like to make a financial contribution.
Beside yourself is Brady is gonna stay. Reason it could polish up the gray. Put that up your wall. That this isn't country at all.
Radio Free Europe is not only a great album opening track, it's really the track that launched R.E.M's career. It first came out in 1981 as a single on a small and short-lived indie label called Hibtone. It went nowhere, but it did garner some excellent reviews in the indie rock press and managed to capture the attention of IRS Records, an alternative rock label whose roster read like a who's who of notable bands, everything from the Bangles to General Public, Oingo Boingo. The list is really extensive. The song was then re-recorded and included as the opening track to their debut LP, Murmur. I think there are many elements that make this tune so infectious. It grabs you right away with those 4 snare hits. Bop, 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 psh. You've got Peter Buck's jangly guitar. That was a mainstay in his style to the end. You've got Mike Mills' beautifully active bass line weaving underneath. But for me, the biggest hook here, as is often the case with R.E.M., is Michael Stipe's vocal, and in particular, his incredible ear for landing on just the right notes when composing his vocal melodies. A while back, I did a video analyzing the R.E.M. tune Man on the Moon, a song from much later in their career, but Stipe has done this always. In that song, he makes liberal use of the raised fourth from the Lydian mode. The guy has absolutely no musical training, but he just has a knack for doing it. But the key moment in this one comes during the pre-chorus. The verses are straight up A-D-E, 3 chords that have been used in rock and roll from Buddy Holly on down the line. But then out of nowhere we get Raving Station beside your say. So what's going on there is Peter Buck lands on an F-sharp 11th chord. This is one of those cool, fortuitous things that just happens in certain keys as a result of the way the guitar is laid out and tuned. You take your F-sharp major bar chord and just open up the top 2 strings. The first string is E, so that's a flatted 7th. The second string is B, which is the 11th. So it's a really gorgeous sounding chord that only works that way in that key. So the held note that Stipe puts over that chord is an A sharp, and that's perfectly normal. A sharp is the major third of the F sharp chord. But remember, this is an F sharp 11th. It's got a B natural in there, which is a half step above the A. And musically, that's a real clash. Listen to that A sharp and B natural played together. And listen to how different the A sharp sounds when sung over a standard F sharp major chord, which is nice enough, but sort of vanilla, and the sound of it over the 11th chord. Here's the F sharp major. Re. Okay, but here's what we really get. Re. It's this beautiful dissonance which is sort of mind-bending and really draws you in. The next chord is an A add 9, which shares that 2-string drone on top, the E and the B string. Listen to how lush that sounds. Now here, Stipe chooses to go to the major third initially, which is cool because this particular inversion, there is no third in there. And then he finally settles on the 9 itself. Station. I don't think I'm going to attempt to analyze the lyrics on this one. First of all, because it features the mumbling, nearly indecipherable vocal delivery that Stipe was so known for on the band's earlier work. Stipe himself has described the lyrics as complete babbling. I think they're really just a vehicle for his vocalizing, but it sure sounds good.
Load up on guns, bring your friends, fun to lose and to pretend. She's overboard, self-assured, no, a dirty word.
Radio Free Europe launched a career, Smells Like Teen Spirit launched a movement. It's not hyperbole to say that when the music video for Teen Spirit hit MTV in 1991, glam rock or hair metal pretty much was killed overnight and grunge music became mainstream. I should mention that I dislike the term grunge, as did most of the guys that played in the so-called grunge bands, but critics need to come up with something to identify what they're talking about, so we'll use it here. For me, most of the big grunge bands, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, I can hear their roots very firmly in classic rock. I hear a lot of Black Sabbath, I hear a lot of Zeppelin. I think of Chris Cornell, Soundgarden singer. Sounds to me like a cross between Robert Plant and Ronnie James Dio, for example. But of all the grunge bands, Nirvana had the most punk rock ethic. You can really sense it. But at the same time, there's a musicality in Cobain that is off the hook. Very much like Stipe, the guy had an uncanny ear for melody. So at first glance, it's tempting to say, oh, that stuff is so simplistic. He's just playing power chords all the time. But when you overlay the melody on top of those power chords, what you really get are some very sophisticated altered and extended chords. Let's take a look at the verse in Teen Spirit. I'm going to do what guitar players call a chord melody arrangement, where I'm literally going to play the chords and the melody sort of at the same time. Rick Beato has already done this. Maybe some of you guys have seen his great breakdown of Teen Spirit. But here's my version. We'll go through what's happening. Cobain once described Teen Spirit as an attempt to rip off the Pixies. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Pixies were a great sort of alternative band, that were probably a good 10 years ahead of their time. And I can definitely hear some Pixies in Nirvana's music. First of all, there's the sort of light verse and heavy chorus that Nirvana used to such great effect. And the Pixies had a tune called Debaser from their Doolittle album. We're going to give it a little listen here. I think you'll hear some similarity in the chords. What we just heard there was F, B flat, G, B flat. Now the Nirvana tune is F, B flat, A flat, D flat. So definitely different, but the way it's all structured, the fact that each measure is split between two different chords, and the fact that it's got that up, down, up movement. And what about the drum pattern? I think it's safe to say Dave Grohl might have taken some inspiration from that tune. That pattern is almost identical. We can look at the first chord of Teen Spirit as an F minor with its fifth on top. That's C. Then we get our second chord, B flat, with E flat as the melody note. That's the suspended fourth of that chord. Up to the fifth, and then we get our third chord, A flat, with the root on the top. Nothing fancy there. So far. Now we go to the fourth chord of the progression, D major, with its third on top, that's F. Working back down to the F minor chord, fifth on top again, but then we get a flatted sixth there, D flat. Then we go back to the B flat chord, this time with a C on top. That's B flat, add 9. Back to the A flat chord, again with root on top, but which quickly becomes a ninth. And I love this, the D flat chord, this time with the major seventh on top. Work down and end on the F chord with a G on top. F add 9. It's also beautifully moody. We must talk about the lyrics on this one. It's been called an anthem for the apathetic kids of Gen X. Now, I'm a Gen Xer myself, borderline boomer, I guess, and I definitely knew plenty of apathetic kids when I was in junior high and high school, although that's probably not unusual in any time period. The genesis of the song's title came in 1990 when Kurt's then girlfriend, Toby Vale, who by the way played in her own band called Bikini Kill, was apparently walking through the grocery store aisle with a friend, and they saw a deodorant called Teen Spirit. They thought it was a hilarious name for a deodorant, which it kind of is. Soon after, there was a wild party at Kurt's house, and Toby scrawled, "Kurt smells like Teen Spirit" on the wall. Kurt took it as a compliment, thinking that she was referring to him as some sort of prophet for the youth of America, and didn't find out until months after the single was released that Teen Spirit was actually a deodorant. But it's a great title, and the groundbreaking music video plays right into it. It's a dystopian high school setting featuring the crazy janitor, tattooed cheerleaders, and the crowd at the pep rally, which turns into a mosh pit by the end. That chorus has got to be one of the most succinct expressions of teenage apathy ever written. With the light out, it's less dangerous. Here we are now, entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now, entertain us. And just to drive the point home, we get that killer line that closes the final verse. Oh well, whatever, never mind. And it's hard to explain today just what a shock to the system it was back in a time where every rock band was wearing makeup, hair extensions, and spandex, to see Kurt up there with his stringy hair that looked like it hadn't been washed in a while, his puke green sweater and ripped up jeans. All of a sudden, it wasn't about how pretty you were, and that was freeing. Icelandic singer, songwriter, performer, and actor Björk has always embraced the unconventional in her work. But with Army of Me, she achieved something that many probably thought was not possible, and that is writing a top 10 song in the Locrian mode. I fully realize that for all of you non-musicians out there, whenever I start talking about these modes with their funny Greek names, it goes right over your heads. You've heard me talk about Dorian mode, Phrygian mode, Lydian mode, Mixolydian mode. One mode you have not heard me talk about is Locrian mode, and that's because it's almost never used. That's what's so great about this. Locrian mode is a very unusual sounding mode. It's got flats all over the place. Root, flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, and back to the root. Kind of a wacky sound, yeah? That killer, insistent bass line that runs through this tune is in C Locrian. But as weird as C Locrian is, Björk manages to make it sound even weirder by making it ambiguous as to where the root note is. It doesn't start from C, it starts on B flat, which is the flatted 7th. Huge interval leaps, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Not only that, but when it finally does land on the C root, it's on a weak beat. 1E and a 2E and, it's on an and, 3E and a 4E and. So the notes that make up the bass riff then are flatted 7th, root, flatted 6th, and flatted 5th. All Locrian notes for sure, but the one note that's missing that would really seal the deal of Locrian is the flat 2. That's a very characteristic note. But guess what she does? She throws that flat 2 into the vocal melody, which really makes it absolutely 100% Locrian mode. The melody starts on the root C, drifts down to the flat 7, and then settles firmly on the flat 2 for quite a while. Stand up, you've got to manage. It's like everything she does is designed to make us feel unsettled, untethered. And then there's those drums. Björk's collaborator, Graham Massey, sampled Led Zeppelin's When the Levee Breaks drum intro for this, so no wonder it sounds so huge. The way those drums come crashing in to start the tune is a big factor in why this makes such a great album opening track. Björk has long been one of my favorite lyricists. Now, I mentioned earlier that she was originally from Iceland, and it may seem at first that working in a language that's not your own is a disadvantage, but personally I've noticed in many cases it's actually a positive. There's a childlike directness and innocence that comes through, and in the struggle to express themselves, I think they often come up with phrases that are even pithier and more poetic than a native speaker would create. Apparently, these lyrics were directed at Björk's little brother, who was making some poor life choices at the time, and that makes them even better. I'm sure we can all relate. We've all had that person in our lives that we dread when they come on the phone, because we know it's going to be trouble and we're going to have to bail them out of the latest mess they've gotten themselves into. So Björk decides to give her brother a proper dressing down. Stand up, you've got to manage. I won't sympathize anymore. So simple and childlike, but it's perfect. What more do you need? And then there's that great chorus. And if you complain once more, you'll meet an army of me. What an incredible phrase that is. I don't think a native English speaker would have thought to put it that way, but it perfectly captures just how annoyed she is with this kid. And she continues, you're all right, there's nothing wrong. Self-sufficiency, please, and get to work. You're on your own now, we won't save you. Your rescue squad is too exhausted. I don't know why, that just kills me. Here's Bjork further elaborating on the lyrics in a typically Bjorkian way. I'm a polar bear and I'm with 500 polar bears just tramping over a city. The lyric is about people who feel sorry for themselves all the time and don't get their shit together. You come to a point with people like that where you've done everything you can do for them, and the only thing that's going to sort them out is themselves. It's time to get things done. I identify with polar bears. They're very cuddly and cute and quite calm, but if they meet you, they can be very strong. Thanks, everyone. This was a lot of fun, and of course, I want to hear what your favorite album opening tracks are. This topic was suggested by one of the most loyal viewers to this channel. He goes by Mr. Malahi in the comments. You will see his name all over the comments in my videos. So thanks a lot for that, man. And we'll see you all soon.